and we're attracting an incredible community of the world's smartest, most engaged people. It's like, what's not to love?
No, I agree. Listen, I wrote a book where I talked about crypto helped get me out of the bed. I'd reached success. I had, enough money that was, you always want more, right? But I had enough money to live a comfortable life. I was satisfied. I was happy. All the things that I thought were going to make me satisfied. And it kind of got bored. And all of a sudden I go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, sort of in a midlife crisis. And it really is brought a second life to me and enthusiasm. And are you experiencing that same kind of?
Yeah. The amount of energy I've got now and passion about stuff is exponentially larger than I've had for decades. I feel the same kind of way that I felt when I was sitting on the desk at Goldman in this most amazing position in the world, speaking to the world's most famous hedge fund managers during the Asian crisis when it's all happening. I'm like, what a time to be alive.
Right.
This is like that. It's like you're living on adrenaline. You're excited. It's fun. And it's just, right. And then, you very soon get to very large numbers, 2, 3, 4 billion people, which is kind of when you get a more saturated market. So we are still early, but we're not super early, and I would suggest that the cycle that lies ahead that we've started is probably the cycle that I refer to as the everything, everywhere, all at once cycle, where we do see adoption from every angle.
Yeah, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, famously said about 2-3 years ago that 99% of the tokens out there were going to zero. I think there was 20,000, and if that's true, that would leave a couple hundred if you go with the 1% of 20,000. Let me ask you: do you agree with that sentiment that 99% out there are?
So, yeah, how to think about this is, for eternity, retail investors have been shut out of venture capital, which has generated huge returns. This is basically tokenized venture capital. And so the VC game is about 80% of everything goes to zero. I think there's multiple attack vectors going on here. One is government, because government has a monopoly on money and violence. And, when you are the world's reserve currency, you're very nervous of making a wrong move. Right? We've seen this repeated. I've written about this on Twitter. After the US left the gold standard, they tried to stop capital flight, had capital controls. So the UK started the FX market, which is the largest market the world has ever seen, because, South Africa wants to trade with the UK and dollars come in the middle. And we're like, well, we need an FX market to trade because we're not using gold anymore. Then it happened with the Eurodollar market because the US banks were not allowed to lend internationally. So the UK started the Eurodollar market, became the largest market the world has ever seen. Happened again with derivatives. They wanted to protect the CME and the CBOT. So they're like, we're not going to let the banks have regulatory cap availability for OTC derivatives. So London started the OTC derivative market. The swap market was first, became a $1.4 quadrillion market. So we've got a history of the United States being cautious around these things and eventually catching up. So that's what I think. Liz Warren there's some nervousness around that. There then is just votes, right? The world is pretty polarized right now.
Yeah.
And one of the ways this polarizes people is young people vote for crypto. It's very difficult for people, and that's how they like it. The maximum uncertainty makes it just impossible for anybody to do it. So it just slows down the progress. I think actually what they're trying to do is slow it down.
Yeah.
Because if they accepted it too fast, it's like kindling, right? As we know. And we saw the same in China and India and the EU. Is they're like, okay, first we need to understand what the hell this is. Second, and this is a thing that most people won't like. Second, we need to figure out our central bank digital currency. So then we can know where the capital is going. Because if central bank digital currency is on blockchain rails, then you can see the connection as it goes onto the distributed ledger systems.
Right.
China did that. They closed, converted to a CBDC essentially, and they will reopen for capital flight. They're reopen via Hong Kong because now they're in control of the money. They can see where it goes.
Right.
Blockchain's a gift for them because they can see the dollar that John spends. They can see exactly where it goes around the system.
Yep.
Now, they may not use it against you. It may be amazing data that we can analyze economies with. There's many things, good things that can happen. There's many bad things as well, but they're coming. But interesting enough, the US is dragging their heels on this as well. While the UK is moving there as fast as possible, the EU is doing a decent job, their own ownership over their assets, which is the problem that crypto was built for in the first place.
Right. Listen, I want to. I've addressed the issue in investing, but I don't have the kind of cred that you do, and I know a lot of my viewers. I'm sure you've heard about ETHgate on social media and the fact that ETH was given a regulatory free pass. And although I've been on the lead of like highlighting the conflicts of interest of Bill Hinman or Jay Clayton, whatever, people were shocked that I own ETH. And I owned, a lot more ETH than I did at XRP. And I owned 10 times more in Bitcoin than I did XRP when I filed the case in the Ripple case. Because to me, it was about government overreach, not a specific token. And a lot of people ask me, with knowing what I know and fighting for what I fought, how could I own Ethereum? And I say my response to them is I take emotion out of it. Like and I separate the token from maybe a CEO, or I separate ETH from Vitalik. And I say to people, listen, as much as I'm in this rabbit hole and passionate, I love my daughters and my family and my friends. I don't love Bitcoin at XRP or ETH. To me, it's an investment. And so what's your view on that?
My view on that is, and it's the reason I've always been supportive of Ripple and the XRP ecosystem and everybody else, for what the point of this space is. And that means you can have respect for the Maxi's point of view. I get it, but just do it in the right way.
I guess the only thing I just intellectually, I have a hard time with the concept that there's only going to be one network, that there's only going to be one blockchain. That to me, it just doesn't sound, it's almost anti-American. We want competition, we want free markets, and let the best tech win. And if that's Bitcoin and Bitcoin becomes all and everything, and then great. And if it's not, fine. If it's the store of value in the digital code is its narrative forever, then fine. And so I just had a hard time staying intellectually following.
Well, also, the weird thing is somehow that community's got itself tied up in knots where Bitcoin has a very clear narrative. It's a super secure chain. It's battle tested.
Absolutely.
Everyone knows what it is. That's all you need. But what they've then said is, well, nothing else should have value, which is this kind of intellectual weird place to end up. Right. Because these other things are networks of which people are building entire businesses, use cases, DeFi system, NFTs, all of this stuff, stable coins. That's not happening on Bitcoin. These are different types of use cases for a blockchain.